So, welcome everyone to Wellness Recovery Action Planning, brought to you by NAMI Cook County North Suburban. We're glad you chose to spend some time with us tonight and know that you'll find tonight's program interesting and practical. I'm Dr. Christine Somerville, a mental health educator and director of programs at NAMI Cook County North Suburban. And for those of you who don't know NAMI, we are the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization providing public awareness, no-cost support, and education programs online and in person so that people and families affected by mental health conditions can build better lives. We are a lifeline to individuals and families who don't know what to expect in their difficult life journey. Our programs are all free and open to those in our 17 community service area, but we don't turn anyone away who is in need. The Wellness Recovery Action Plan, or what we call WRAP, is a self-designed prevention and wellness process that anyone can use to get well and stay well and make their life the way they want it to be. Developed by a group of people in search of ways to overcome their own mental health issues and fulfill their life dreams and goals, it is now used extensively by people in all kinds of circumstances, by healthcare and mental health workers all over the world to address physical and mental health and life issues. So tonight we will begin with a presentation. We will welcome your questions and comments in the chat box at the bottom anytime during the program. In fact, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So on the bottom of your screen, feel free to use your chat box to ask questions. And we'll also leave a little bit of time at the end for more questions. I'd like to introduce our speaker for tonight. AJ French is a highly sought out recovery leader in Illinois. She influences culture and shapes public policy by sharing her personal experiences and professional expertise with as many people as possible in as many settings as possible. She was among the first in Illinois to earn the Certified Recovery Support Specialist credential and the Certified Recovery Peer Specialist credential, maintained by the Illinois Certification Board. And she has also earned facilitator certification in a number of wellness curriculums, including financial wellness training, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, WRAP, what we're going to talk about tonight, and Whole Health Action Management, referred to as WHAM. Her work has taken her to the White House for a briefing on suicide prevention and an interfaith discussion with the U.S. Surgeon General. AJ began her work with NAMI Madison County, where she served on the board of directors and volunteered as Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator, CIT. She is an In Our Own Voice presenter and state trainer and was awarded In Our Own Voice Presenter of the Year by NAMI Illinois. Ms. French established Gift of Voice, and she resides in Madison County, Illinois. She will lead with her PowerPoint presentation tonight. So it is my pleasure to welcome AJ French.
Oh, thank you, Christine. I appreciate your introduction. And good evening, everyone. My name is AJ French. And if you're sitting there wondering whether or not it's possible to recover from even the most debilitating of life circumstances, the answer is absolutely. And I am living proof. Speaking before you today is a woman who's intelligent, articulate, passionate, compassionate. I'm not able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but I am a woman who loves life. I love my life, yet this hasn't always been the case. I grew up in a rather dysfunctional home environment, and my childhood was filled with a tremendous amount of uncertainty. I would come home from school and never knew what to expect when I walked through the front door. Part of this was due to the mental health challenges experienced by my parents. My mother lived with depression, and my father returned home from Vietnam with post-traumatic stress before that diagnosis and terminology even existed. I myself have also experienced trauma, both in my childhood and as a young adult. I remember running away from home even before I was in kindergarten. I ran away in grade school And by the time I was in high school, I had my first of many suicide attempts. I seriously did not want to live. I moved away from my home in our rural farming community to attend college. I got married and we adopted 2 beautiful children. We built a 3,000 square foot home, and then my husband started traveling more and more frequently. His absence unearthed a lot of unresolved issues that I had from my childhood about my own father's abandonment. And that was just really hard. My husband and I separated, we divorced, and eventually our children, they moved in with him. That's when my life became unmanageable. I began attempting suicide on a regular basis, and my life seemed to be spinning out of control. I experienced hopelessness, homelessness, hallucinations, and multiple psychiatric hospitalizations. I felt like a person who was living in a concentration camp. I was alive on the outside, but something inside of me was already dead. Now, I've heard it said that if you ever lose your hope, you're going to remember the moment that you get it back. And for me, I got my hope back in the summer of 2005 when I went to a state-funded training for recovery support specialists, also known as peer specialists. I met people who were just like me. They all lived with mental health challenges, and some of them had been through even far more trauma than I had experienced. But unlike me, they were striving to live healthy. I walked into that training room with fresh wounds on my arm from a recent suicide attempt. But my life was forever changed the moment that I heard a woman named Nanette Larson boldly proclaim, "I believe it is possible for any person to recover from any life circumstance." Having never met her, she must have somehow known how those powerful words would begin to quench the thirst of my parched soul, because she repeated them. I believe it is possible for any person to recover from any life circumstance. And this was the moment that I got my hope back, because where there is breath, there is hope. And I began fighting for my life and the lives of my peers to the same extent I once fought for death with all of those suicide attempts. I went from experiencing homelessness to living in public housing to owning my own home. I went from being told I would never work again due to a psychiatric disability. And I'm not sure which was worse, hearing that awful, ugly lie or believing it. But I went from being told I would never work again to volunteering and gaining job skills and gaining people skills and gaining life skills to transitioning from disability income to earned income. And I always tell people, I'm not there yet, but I am on my way. Early on, one of the most valuable resources that I acquired in my recovery journey was learning how to write and practice Wellness Recovery Action Plan, WRAP. So this is something that changed the trajectory of my life, and I am so privileged to share this resource with each of you tonight. So WRAP is an evidence-based practice, and I like to tell people that I am the evidence, but I also want to make sure that people on this line have a clear understanding that even though I'm presenting this material, Mary Ellen Copeland is credited as the author who's impacted the lives of people across the globe. And you may notice behind the words Wellness Recovery Action Plan, there's an R with a little circle around it. So this is the symbol for a registered trademark. WRAP is a registered trademark, and as a certified WRAP facilitator, I have permission to present this material to you this evening. And I want to thank NAMI Cook County North Suburban, and especially Nathaniel and Christine, for extending an invitation for me to join you tonight. As I said in my opening remarks, I am living proof that it's possible to recover from any life circumstance. So let's start by talking a little bit about recovery. First of all, everyone has something to recover from, whether it's addictions, divorce, death, incarceration, mental health challenges, suicide attempts, trauma, or even something on a smaller scale like recovering from that really, really embarrassing moment with your kids. let's take a moment and start off by typing in the chat box a few things that you have recovered from in your own life or something that you would like to recover from. And I'll read the answers as they come in. Go ahead, just type that in. So Elizabeth says drug use. Christine says divorce. Laura says being embarrassed. Diane says narcissistic partners. Christine says sexual assault. Tina says divorce, being a single parent, having a daughter with Asperger's, going to residential school after 5 hospitalizations. And we have manic episodes, death of a spouse, just being embarrassed about being on disability. Nathaniel says alcohol abuse. So we have all of these things that we can recover from. And something I want you to keep in mind is that RAP is universal. This means that you can write a RAP for anything. And here are just a few examples. Improving health and wellness. I can write a RAP for how am I going to recover from my incarceration, whether that incarceration was in prison or a county jail or even in psychiatric hospitalization. I can write a RAP for developing better parenting skills. Doesn't mean that I'm a bad parent. It just means I can get better. I can develop a RAP for being courageous during those trying times. And oh my goodness, there were so many trying times that were listed just now. I can develop a RAP for staying healthy while seeking employment. I've heard it said that I've had a lot of hard jobs, but the hardest job I ever had was being unemployed. We can even develop a RAP for living the best life possible. A RAP for life, or a suicide prevention RAP. Whoops, I'm going to go back one. So something to remember about RAP is that it is universal. And I myself, I've written 4 RAP plans. I want to take just a moment to tell you about the 4 RAPs that I've written. The first RAP that I wrote was for my own mental health. And this was the plan when I learned how to make self-care a daily practice. Probably the most important thing that I learned from that first class is that I actually have the power to make a plan and take action on my own behalf. Before I took that first RAP class, I was feeling pretty powerless. And my second RAP was for spiritual health. Spirituality is one of the foundational principles of wellness, and I wanted to expand this part of my life. And while RAP is a public wellness program and not a religious activity, I got to facilitate RAP with a small group at my church, and that's something that really meant a lot to me. My third RAP was for how to be healthy as a public speaker. Yes, you guys heard that right. I actually wrote a plan for how to be my best while presenting for audiences like you. Now, I had to rework that plan a little bit when COVID happened. Now I sometimes had stressors that I never had while facilitating in person. For example, what if you hit the slide button and the slide doesn't advance the way you want it to? But now I know that I can, because of the plan that I developed, I can present well. And even if something happens unexpected, I can still take action to make it a good presentation. My fourth plan was a RAP for healthy driving. Now, I got to tell you, this happened a while back. I had been getting a lot of speeding tickets, and so many that I had an upcoming court date. And I confess, I really didn't have the purest of motives. I was afraid I was going to lose my driver's license. So I came up with this idea to write a RAP for healthy driving. And I was going to take it in and I was going to show the judge my plan and I was going to beg for mercy. Thankfully, an agreement was worked out and I didn't ever talk to a judge, but I had written a RAP plan for healthy driving. And as I was writing that plan, I realized that I was beginning to miss a lot of exits because I was always on the go. The only time I slowed down long enough to relax was when I was sitting down behind the wheel of my car. So even though that plan wasn't written with the purest of motives, I did spend some time focusing on improving my driving habits. And I am a substantially better driver today. While it never helped me in court, it may have just saved my life. And before we advance to the next slide, let me just take a moment and say that RAP does have values and ethics that facilitators are responsible for facilitating and implementing as they're facilitating. And one of these values and ethics is that participation is voluntary. So RAP should never be mandated in a court of law. In a classroom, participants should always be encouraged to give answers, but never pressured or coerced. All right, now let's move on to that next slide. So this is an overview of RAP. Here are the 4 different parts. The first part begins with the foundational principles of wellness. And this means being connected to hope, to personal responsibility, to support, to education, to self-advocacy, and to spirituality. We're going to take time to look at each of these a little bit more in depth as the presentation advances. But for right now, we're just going to do the overview. The second part is the wellness toolbox. And this is a list of simple, safe coping wellness strategies that we can use anytime to help us feel better and to stay well. And the third part about RAP is the action plan. And as you can see, this is really the bulk of RAP, or the crux of RAP. It begins with a daily plan. And I look at this as really 6 different stages of health, starting from a plan for what a person is like when they're well, to stressors and an action plan, early warning signs and an action plan, when things begin to break down, and an action plan, because RAP's not RAP without the app, and the app stands for action plan, to crisis planning and post-crisis planning. So let's slow down a little bit. How about the daily plan? What's included in that? Well, a daily plan consists of 2 things. It's a description of what I'm like when I'm at my best, which helps me to stay focused on a vision for my wellness every single day. And how many of you have ever started taking a new medication and the doctor has asked you to get blood work before you start taking the medication? Why does the doctor do that? The doctor does that so that way we can, that way he knows kind of what to measure it against. He's developing a baseline. Well, the same with us. We can create this picture or this portrait of what we're like when we're at our best. So that way we have something to compare it to. And then the second part of the daily plan are the things that we need to do every day to help us stay at our best, to be the best that we can be for the day. I like to think of this as the bare necessities. Oh, you guys didn't come to hear a singer. Let me move on to stressors. All right, so stressors. And for those of you who may have taken a RAP class in the past, you may have also heard this referred to as triggers. The language has been updated to reflect a little bit more universal appeal. Not everybody can relate to a trigger, but most people can relate to being stressed out at some point. So what's in the stressor part of the plan? These are a list of events and circumstances that can compromise my wellness if I do not respond to them. So what do? We want to identify what those stressors are and then develop an action plan for when I experience those stressors. Here's action I can take on my own behalf. The early warning signs. Early warning signs There we go. There's these list of these internal signs. These include thoughts and feelings and sensations that a person is having. And only the person experiencing an early warning sign knows that it is an early warning sign. And the same with stressors, the same with early warning signs. We want to identify what those early warning signs are, and we want to develop an action plan. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to when things are breaking down, because I want to do a little bit of a compare and contrast between early warning signs and when things are breaking down. So when things are breaking down is a list of signs that someone's having difficulty, which in this case, other people begin to notice. But even when things begin to break down, we can still take action on our own behalf. So it helps to identify when things are breaking down and have an action plan for what action can we take when things do begin to break down. And let me just share this example. right now, if you, or even let's say tomorrow when you're at work or out in the grocery store, if you are, if you have a knot in the middle of your stomach, and like you're really nervous and you're feeling anxious and you have a knot in the middle of your stomach, you can look at that and you go, oh, this is an early warning sign. I know that I've got a knot in my stomach. I'm feeling uneasy. Something's not quite right. And you can take action on your own behalf. Now, would people around you in the grocery store know that you have a knot in your stomach? Would people around you know that you're experiencing an early warning sign? No, only you would know it. This is something that only can be measured by the person experiencing it. Now, what if, let's say you didn't have an action plan. I don't have an action plan. I got this knot in my stomach, and the longer the knot's there, now all of a sudden my face is getting really red and I'm beginning to sweat profusely. And now people around you, whether it's in your home or your work or even at the grocery store, people around you notice that something's wrong. You're sweating, your face is really red. Maybe your breathing becomes very cumbersome. So I just really want you guys to catch that key distinction between early warning signs and when things are breaking down. At the early warning sign stage, that's when the person experiencing them notices that there's an early warning sign. But when things begin to break down, that's when people around you may begin to notice that you're having difficulty. And it's worth pointing out that if people around you are noticing that you're struggling, it may be a good idea to include in your action plan enlisting the support of trusted individuals to help you get back to a place of wellness. With the action plans, in my own personal wrap, I actually crossed off daily plan and I just wrote me well. But with the action plan part of wrap, this third part, the goal is no matter which stage you're in, whether it's stressors or early warning signs or things breaking down, or even the crisis or post-crisis plan, the goal is to always take action to get back to that daily plan, that place of me being well. So we're going to move on to the crisis plan. The crisis planning, with a crisis plan, we are not planning for a crisis. We're not planning a crisis. We're planning for a crisis. So similar, think about it like a fire escape. We're not planning the fire. We're planning to know where our fire extinguishers are, where our exits are, where we're going to meet our family if we have to go outside of our home. So again, we're not planning a crisis. We're planning on how to exit the crisis and get back to that place of wellness. So the crisis plan is a plan that we developed when we are well to be used at a time when somebody else needs to step in and take over. And kind of the idea or the thought behind this is we've written this plan during a time of wellness, during a time when our decision making is not compromised. And when we activate this plan is we realize that things have broken down to the point that we are now in crisis. And I am turning my care over to a trusted supporter and asking them to take action on my behalf. And my trusted supporters will follow my self-determined wishes. So this is why it's so important to do this while we're well, while we're in a good headspace. Our supporters, this is a wrap, you can share your wrap plan if you take a class and write a wrap plan. And I would encourage all of you to take a class. I know that if anybody has interest, I bet Christine and Nathaniel would be willing to make that happen. But if you take a wrap class, one of the things that you will learn is that my wrap is mine. If I want to share it with people, I can. If I want to keep it to myself, more like a journal, I can do that too. But the crisis plan, this one section of the wrap, if you have listed other supporters in your crisis plan, then you really do want to share at least the crisis portion with them. So that way you can talk about it and you'll find out, at least I have found out, and I know other people have also found out, sometimes you'll ask a person to be their supporter and it's somebody that, wow, you really trust this person, you admire this person, but this person may have things happening in their life and they may feel like they can't be your supporter in a formal agreement. And while that can be disappointing, if that happens, that's okay, because there are other people that will be your supporter. The important thing is to identify who will do what. So with our crisis plan, that's a more in-depth part of the RAP that does, that really, it is helpful if you can share that part with other people. Now, the next part is the post-crisis plan. And this is something I really like about RAP. I've not seen it in other curriculums, but a lot of times I've noticed that people will be released from a psychiatric hospital and they'll jump right back into their regular lives. It's like, wow, with any other kind of crisis that we have, if somebody's in an accident, if somebody's hospitalized for a major illness, almost never is somebody released from the hospital and they go to work the next day. So this post-crisis plan is really a period of healing. It's a time when we can recover. We're not in the crisis, but we're not quite back to me well. So these are steps that we take after a crisis has ended to help ensure a smooth recovery and return to wellness. And the fourth part of the recovery topics. The recovery topics are something that we don't always do in every single class. Sometimes it depends on the facilitator. With the classes that I facilitate, we will take one or maybe two topics. For classes that are facilitated in an inpatient psychiatric setting, they may do all 8 of the topics, but it really does depend on the length of the classes and the facilitator that you have. But there are different recovery topics, including self-esteem, trauma recovery, work-related issues, peer support, motivation, lifestyle, living space, and enhancing your life topics. And then a real popular one, changing negative thoughts to positive ones. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take a drink. I'm practicing my own wellness right now. And while I'm doing that, I want to ask if anybody has any questions up to this point. Would you go ahead and put any questions or comments in the chat box, please? And I'll take a moment to allow you to type and do that. Okay, I'm seeing a couple comments that need to show the action plan and show how to develop the action plan. And is there a book for this program? So I'm going to answer the latter question first. There is a booklet. There's actually several different booklets that are available through the Copeland Center. I will put the, I tell you what, I will send that to Christine. I will send a link to Christine, and if she wants to send that out when she sends out this handout, you know what? I just see it. It's already on the handout. Based on at the very bottom of the screen, based on the work of Mary Ellen Copeland, www.mentalhealthrecovery.com. All right, Stan, I will try to call you Stan. So there are some books. The books that are out there are specific to mental health recovery, addiction recovery, or co-occurring. And also a booklet was written for service members, veterans, and their families. And there's a children's edition as well. So I see another question. When you write a plan for something like health and wellness, would you still use the crisis planning section? Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think even some of the most healthiest people I know have still had bouts of illness. For example, maybe you have to get wisdom teeth pulled. And a crisis planning isn't strictly related to your health. A lot of times the focus is on health, but it could be, like we said, maybe the building caught on fire. Maybe we had a crisis, a financial crisis, and it's impacted our family living situation. So there are many different kinds of crisis. And again, the goal is not to plan to be ill, but just in case. Your crisis plan is your just in case plan. Just in case I get sick, here's my exit route. Here's how I want to get well again. Oh, to be a facilitator for RAP, what are the steps? Okay, I tell you what, I actually, on the very last slide, I included the steps just in case somebody would ask. So we're going to get to that before the end of the hour, but I want to encourage people that until we get to that slide, can you try to take a look at this curriculum as to how it can help you as an individual? So even if you work in the mental health field, even if you're in the people business, the people industry, try to think about how this can help me in my own life and my own household. It's kind of like you always hear the analogy, maybe you've heard this from other presenters, about when the plane is going down, you put on your own mask before you put it on your child or on anybody next to you. We want to apply this to our own lives, so that way we can then begin to share the message with others. All righty, so I'm going to go to the next slide. And Stan, I'm going to try to hit the how to develop the action plan part as well. All right, here we go. Next slide. So every wrap begins by laying the foundation, and in wrap, we use the foundational principles of wellness. So the foundational principles of wellness, you heard me refer to them earlier: hope, personal responsibility, support, education, self-advocacy, and spirituality. Let me give you another definition for each of those foundational principles. Hope, having a vision that includes hopes and dreams, setting goals while refraining from negative predictions, fearing false despair, not false hope. And the thing that I want to bring across to you this evening is there is nothing false about hope. Sometimes in different settings, we can hear the expression, and maybe some of you have heard it before, oh, I don't want to give anybody false hope. Hope is very real. Hope is not some pie in the sky idea. We want to anchor our hope in personal responsibility and support and education and self-advocacy and spirituality. But hope is endless possibilities. I can hope and hope and hope that I'm going to get a $600 check. And everybody's told me that those stimulus checks, if you haven't gotten it by now, you're not going to get it. True story in my life. Somebody said that to me. Well, they said, if you haven't gotten it by now, you're going to get it. Well, guess what I got? I got my stimulus check. You see, hope is not about, although that time the outcome was positive, hope is really not about the outcome. Even if I would not have gotten my stimulus check, but I'm still hoping for it, hope is a reason that keeps me alive. Hope is the thing that keeps me going. There's an expression, shoot for the stars. Even if you miss, you just might hit a moon. So the next definition, personal responsibility. Let me read a definition that's not on the screen. Personal responsibility is relying on oneself with help from others while working to control one's life and one's symptoms, making choices which reflect one's life priorities. Personal responsibility is simply, if hope could be defined as endless possibilities, personal responsibility could be summarized as making good choices. That's it. So support. Again, I'm going to read from another definition. Support is recognizing that recovery is not a journey that anyone walks alone, drawing on support from friends, family, and healthcare professionals. Support could, if you were just going to pick a couple words, support could be defined as encouragement and accountability. And if you notice the way that this chart is made, these two balance one another out. In some settings, people are really big on personal responsibility and taking action and making decisions and working towards your goals. And in other cultures, people are very supportive, very encouraging, it's a very soft and warm experience. And the thing is, but both are needed. If all you have is support, then we're not taking any action on our own behalf. But if all we do is take action on our own behalf, and we don't draw upon the support of others, no man or woman is an island to themselves. So we're going to move down to the next one, education. Education is learning all there is to know about one's health, wellness, symptoms, and treatment in order to be equipped to make good decisions, being open to and seeking out new information. And self-advocacy is going for it with courage, persistence, and determination, expressing oneself clearly and calmly in order to get one's needs met. And again, these two balance each other out. How can I self-advocate? How can I advocate? How can I communicate to get my needs met if I'm not educated, if I don't have good information about what my needs are, what the resources are? So education and self-advocacy, they both balance each other out. And if we were looking for these two-word definitions, education would be, well, it's 3 words, good, solid information. And self-advocacy would be effective communication. And then finally, spirituality. Spirituality is finding meaning and purpose in one's life. It's gaining a sense of identity based on one's own values and beliefs. It may include a relationship with the divine or a power greater than oneself. And I really like how this definition extends an invitation for people that have a belief in a higher power to include that. But also, if you don't have that kind of belief, this is really just about what brings meaning and purpose to your life. It's about what matters the most. What is so important to you that it would cause you to get up 3 hours earlier to be somewhere because this is so important to me. Or maybe it would cause you to stay up way up into the middle of the night, 3 hours later. So that just like the ones in the middle balance each other out, the spirituality and the hope balance each other out. Because if you think of hope as a goal or as a destination, your spirituality is the fuel in the tank that's going to get you there. Your spirituality, what brings meaning and purpose? Why does this matter to you? That's going to be your driving force behind what gets you to your hopes and your dreams. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to personalize it a little bit. I've seen that we've had a couple comments in the chat box about what these words, what are definitions that you would say, but I'm going to ask not for definitions, I'm going to ask for examples. So what are some of the examples that you have right now in your own life? What are some of the things that you're hoping for? Just go ahead and type them in the chat box. Hey, Terry says she's hoping for a healthier lifestyle. And Stan says he's seeking a way to solve a health issue. Oh, Diane, I think we all share your hope of surviving this pandemic. And Catherine says, the COVID vaccination I got today, she's hoping that it's effective. Whitney's hoping to be well. Carrie's hoping for strength. These are all fantastic hopes. Hopes comes in small, medium, and large sizes. So there's nothing, it's kind of like Goldilocks. There's nothing too hot, nothing too cold. But look for the hope that is just right for you. Financial stability. That's a fantastic hope. So let's do the same with personal responsibility. And I want you to remember the hope that you just stated. So for example, Marie said she's hoping to manage her stress while helping and caring for her loved one with dementia. And Ashima is hoping to manage her suicidal thoughts. So I want you to take the things that you typed, and even if you didn't type, I want you to take the things that you have in your mind, and I want you to ask yourself, how can I take personal responsibility in meeting my hope? So Ashima, I'm going to use yours as an example. I'm hoping to manage my suicidal thoughts because that's something that I've wrestled with many, many, many times in my life. So what is my personal responsibility to help manage my suicidal thoughts? And if other people would like to comment on this. And Ashiba, we're going to hopefully get a few different suggestions of ways to take personal responsibility. But here's the good news. This is the way RAP works. You get to hear everybody's suggestions and ideas, but then you get to choose. You don't have to do what anybody says. You get to choose whether or not it's something that you would like to try or not try. So one of my personal responsibilities, one of the ways I take personal responsibility when I'm having suicidal thoughts, is that I actually reach out to a supporter. I have somebody in my life, she's my battle buddy, and she's also somebody that struggles with these suicidal thoughts. And I reach out to her, and she's not just any supporter. I have many supporters in my life, but I can't confide in all of my supporters. I confide in the supporter that I trust, that I'm going to trust to understand, that I'm going to trust to just let me say what I'm thinking and feeling, and that I know she's not going to be judgmental. I know she's not going to try to fix things. She's just going to listen to me. So my personal responsibility is that I actually do reach out to a supporter. And then we have, well, what if you don't have many supporters? What if you don't have many friends? Well, what do people think? I want other people to weigh in on that. I have a few thoughts about that, but I would like to hear from our other participants. This is part of how RAP works, just getting that group wisdom going. So if we don't have a lot of supporters, what can we do? What personal responsibility can we take? Okay, we're getting some answers. Hey, maybe I need to research what are my local resources. Maybe I need to look for a 12-step meeting, and there's a lot of them that are on Zoom or on the phone right now. And then we have somebody that feels that support must come from your family and your friends and yourself by learning more about what you need to do. And then if you don't have supporters, well, just find someone, find somebody to talk to. There are all kinds of groups. And let me share with you, there's a number to the Illinois Warm Line. It's a place that folks can call. It's not a hotline. It's not a crisis line, but it's a place that people can call Monday through Saturday. I believe it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm now starting to make a list of materials that I'm going to send to Christine. But this Warm Line is a place that they can provide support. They're people in recovery who have earned recovery support credentials. And they can provide some phone support for you, but they also maybe can suggest some supporters in your area. So there's different organizations like NAMI can be a tremendous support. Support's one of the core values of NAMI. Support is encouragement and accountability. So we want to look for those people that can encourage us and hold us accountable. For time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and go down to education because we don't want to forget about educating ourselves. So where do we find education? Where can we find some good, solid information? So we have the NAMI website. NAMI has a lot of information on their website. Jacqueline says, search the internet, or you could even read, Jacqueline, this is a really good one. If you already have a primary doctor, reach out to your doctor. Marie says, reaching out to peers or mentors, even the hospital and the library. And Mayor says, look for those credible sources. That's so good, especially if we're gonna Google. We want to make sure that the information that we're getting is a credible source. And Catherine suggested a really credible source, SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. So you can Google that resource. Alice says the public library. I have to tell you, just a funny little story. This is how I first got connected with NAMI. When I was very ashamed that I had a mental illness, and I should not have been ashamed, but I was very ashamed that I had a mental illness, and the only people that knew about it was my doctor that was prescribing medication and my pastor, and both of them were bound by confidentiality. So neither one of them could tell anyone. And I went to the library because I was looking for education. I was looking for literature to read something. It was before I had internet access. And there were NAMI newsletters in the library. And that's how I first got connected with NAMI. So don't ever underestimate that public library resource. Diane says meetup groups. Oh, meetup groups are a fabulous place to not only get education, but also develop relationships with people and find support. And if you live in Chicago, Magala. Oh, wow. I'm really sorry because I know I probably pronounced your name wrong, but it's a good suggestion. If you live in Chicago, 311. I know that in my area, it's 411. And Christine is saying the National Institute of Health, or NIH.gov, if you're using the internet. These are fantastic places to get education. And then Jacqueline asked the question, how did I overcome the embarrassment? I have, Jacqueline, that's such a great question. It was not any one moment. It was a journey over time. And what I found is I was involved I went to a public mental health agency, and I got involved in a Speakers Bureau program. This was before NAMI's In Our Own Voice, before my involvement with that program. But at the public mental health agency, I would go to these high schools and these colleges, and there was a group of us, there was a group of 6 to 8 of us that would go, and we would begin to share our journeys, our experiences with public audiences. And I think talking about it with strangers helped me open up a little bit more with people in my own life. And now I talk about it all of the time. Now it's like, this is part of who I am. It's not my whole identity, but it's one aspect, and it's a very important aspect of my life. But even still, I'll tell you, there's a couple of years ago, I do speaking engagements for a lot of different groups, and I was going to a different state, and I was in the airport, and I had forgotten something, and I don't even remember what I'd forgotten. It was some information, and there was this guy, and he had a computer, and I wanted to ask him to look something up on the computer for me, but I was scared in that moment. For as much as I talk, as for all the public speaking experience that I have, I was scared because what I was asking him to look up was about mental health. And just for a brief moment, I got scared again. So I don't know that I've 100% overcome it, but I do know that writing about it, talking about it, that's helped me tremendously. And the thing about RAP is we just look for what helps all of us. What helps one person might not help another. So with spirituality, I read the definition on this. Let me just ask you guys, what brings meaning and purpose into your life? We'll type a few more comments and then we'll move on to the next slide. But what is it that brings meaning and purpose to your life? Like, what's really, really important to you? My family. Yep, that's why we carry those pictures of friends and family in our wallets, because they're important to us. My family. Helping others. And bringing them hope to overcome their addictions. Helping others. Yeah, helping others really brings a lot of life satisfaction to us. My profession is a social worker. So on one hand, that's part of helping others, but on the other hand, my work really matters to me. It's important. I'm doing something that's making a difference. So those are all really great examples of spirituality. Oh, I especially love pets, because pets, I mean, nobody can love us like a pet, right? All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide. The next part is the wellness toolbox. A couple things to remember about wellness tools. They're things that we do which help us to feel better and to stay well. And that's a definition, but here's the criteria. The criteria for wellness tools. These are things that are safe, simple, within our budget, and legal. So what's the ideal size for a wellness toolbox? Well, it depends on where you're keeping your wellness tools. For example, I'm sitting in my office right now, and my bottom desk drawer, I opened it and I'm looking at what I've got in there. Wow, I've got some chocolate. I've got some Advil just in case I need it. I've got one of those squeezy things, like a squeezy ball. I've got some journals and some pens and papers. I just have some things that if I need to take a break from what I'm doing and I need to do something more relaxed, I even got a thing of chewing gum in here. These are my wellness tools while I'm at work. I have other kinds of wellness tools while I'm at home. But when you think about it, if you're going to, if wellness tools can help you build and improve and maintain your overall health, then if that's what a wellness tool does, then what size of wellness toolbox do you want? Anybody want to take a response to that? So the definition of the wellness tool, Stan's asking, I'm going to go back one slide. Wellness tools are things that we do which help us to feel better and stay well. So if wellness tools are things that we do, then what's the right size of box? Christine's saying, I want one the size and shape of my piano. It sounds like that piano is a great wellness tool. Here's how I think about this. I think it's good to have wellness tools, a wellness toolbox wherever you are. So I have a desk drawer that's a wellness tools while I'm here at work. I have the in my glove box in my car. There's a wellness toolbox. Jacqueline's saying there's no special size. Terry's saying whatever will hold, whatever will. Terry, I love this response. Whatever will hold, whatever we know that we're going to need. I love that. And Mahir is saying just enough that I can handle. So I love these answers because it's not a one size fits all, and wrap is not a one size fits all. So if you would type in the box, what's your favorite wellness tool? Yours. So one of my favorite wellness tools is to go for a walk. Zumba. Angela's like, Zumba. She knew right away. TV shows, yoga, journaling, reading, gardening, watching Netflix, playing piano. Hey, that deck of cards and writing poetry and movies. Oh, seeing those grandkids. I love them grandkids. Yoga, music, baking, more music. Now, these are all things that they're all really great things. And every single thing that people have listed are safe, simple, free or within my budget, and legal. Engaging with my support group and listening to, whoops, the slide advanced on me. Here we go. Engaging with my support group and listening to worship music. My family, my wonderful friends, my church, my nursing career for over 45 years have been extremely rewarding, and I love my work. Taking a water break and daydreaming. These are fantastic examples of wellness tools. And like I was telling Christine right before this call, wrap is not rocket science. Wrap is really some pretty pliable stuff that we could all do. Which one of us couldn't make a cup of tea? Most of us could. Some of us would enjoy it. Planning my action items. Let's move on to action items. That's the next part of this presentation. So action planning, you heard me say, wrap's not wrap without the app, and the app stands for action plan. And just like every single one of these homes are different, they're different kinds of dwelling, they're different kinds of abodes. You see some similarities. Every single one of them have doors, except for the one on the bottom with the flag. I don't see a door on that, but we know there's a door into that household, even if it's not in the photo. But some of them have similarities. They all have doors, they'll have windows, they'll have roofs, but some of them have differences. Like the differences, like one has a really beautiful front deck on waterfront. Another one, a couple of them have front porches. One of them has an American flag. One of them's on wheels even. So it is with your wrap. You're going to discover that there are things that are similar in your plan compared to my plan, but there are also going to be some things that are distinctly yours and distinctly mine. Each wrap is as unique as the author. Most wraps are handwritten or typed, but there is more than one way. So some people draw, they use pictures and or they make collages. Some people have even made song lyrics about wrap. We have to discover that we have to understand that what works for you may not work for me and vice versa. And just to give you an example of this, I have this colleague that part of her wellness is she has all kinds of smelly hand lotion, and she thinks it smells good, but I just think it's smelly. I have a lot of sensory challenges, and the scent really overwhelms me. In fact, I cannot carpool with this woman because she's always lathering up with the lotion. So her wellness tool is actually my stressor. And similarly, there may be something that I find completely wonderfully relaxing, and maybe it'll stress somebody else out. So we just understand that each wrap is as unique as the author, and each person is the best expert on themselves. What works for most people may not work for one person. And what works for one person may not work for most people. And this doesn't mean when we say each person is the best expert on themselves, it doesn't mean that we're the only expert. It just means that at the end of the day, we're the ones who, when we lay our head down at night, we have to live with our decisions more so than anybody that would give us advice or consultation. There are things that we've learned about ourselves because we've lived with ourselves all of these years. A really important principle of this work is that it's based on self-determination. It opens doors for individuals, but it doesn't force anybody to walk through. It doesn't dictate anyone's path. Okay. So here's the action plan part. Here's the third part. And remember, we talked about what do I look like when I'm well? What are those 3 to 5 things I need to do each day when I... So some of the things that might be wellness. I know with me, one of the things that I look like when I'm well is that I'm well rested. That would be a good picture of me well. And that means I've had about 8 hours of sleep the night before. I'm well rested. When you're well, what are some of the characteristics of your wellness? What do you like when you're well? When you are well, just type that in the chat box. When I'm well, I feel good. I have this good energy level. When I'm well, I actually want to reach out to my friends. I feel calm. I'm at peace. I'm focused and I'm alert. Tina, this is a really good one. They've all been good, but I am completing activities of daily life. She didn't say I'm engaging in. She says I'm completing them. So the more specific that we can get, the more stronger plan we'll have. I have more confidence in myself and I feel at peace. So what are those bare necessities, those 3 to 5 things that I need to do every single day to stay well? Now, these are not, with the wellness toolbox, we want to have as many tools in as many places as possible. But this is more of a priority in your daily plan. What are the kind of like, with our physical health, what do? We eat, we sleep, we brush our teeth every day. Those could be 3 things with our physical health. What would be the 3 things that we would need to do with our emotional health, with our mental health, or even with what our goal was, whatever our hope was? Like somebody said, financial wellness. Well, if financial wellness is your goal, if that's your hope and your dream, then what 3 to 5 things do you need to do every day to stay well while you're on that path? So I'll read a few of them. Jacqueline says, well, I've got to rest, I've got to eat, I've got to take time for devotion and meditation. Magalai, I hope I'm saying this right, but she says that she wants to pray, to eat, and she needs sleep to be focused. Those are great. Those are really wonderful. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on. So we're looking at the second part was stressors and an action plan. What stressors are things that can compromise my wellness if I don't respond? So for example, I mentioned I had some sensory challenges. I get startled by noise very easily. So if a door would slam unexpectedly, that startles me. Somebody honks a car horn, that can startle me sometimes. just any loud noise. So what is my action plan? Well, if it's a quick noise, I want to look and identify it. If it's a repetitive noise, I usually need to step away. I know that in addition to a sharp noise, sometimes conversations where people are the white noise, like you have multiple conversations happening in one place, which we haven't had a whole lot of during 2020, but hopefully 2021 will end a little bit better. But what can I do if like the noise is too much and I just can't concentrate? I found that I can very intentionally tell the person that's trying to talk to me, and I can't listen to them because all these other conversations are going on. Just like, can we step over into the hall and have this conversation? I'm really having trouble concentrating right now. And just saying that and soliciting their help usually will take care of it. So Marie says that she prays, she talks to one positive person at least once per day. She reaches out to do something or say something kind, to do something that makes their day better. I just want people to understand that we want to identify what the stressor is and then what the action plan would be. So for example, with my colleague and my friend who really lathers up with the hand lotion, my action plan is I cannot get in the car with her. Well, maybe I have another colleague that I enjoy have conversations with. They don't use hand lotion at all. Maybe my action plan is to very intentionally ride with person number 2 instead of person number 1. But that action plan is specific to that stressor. There may be different action plans that you have for different stressors. All right, we already talked about the difference between the early warning signs and when things are breaking down. So let's go back to that example with the knot in the stomach. Somebody's having a knot in the stomach. Maybe they're in the grocery store. Maybe the first plan of action is to identify, why am I having a knot in my stomach? Is there something I'm anxious about? Is there something that I ate that didn't sit well with me? Oh, well, I'm having that knot in my stomach because I just walked past the liquor aisle and I wasn't intending to go into the liquor aisle. When I went into it, it was chips, but about halfway down, it turned out to be liquor. And now I'm all of a sudden reminded of maybe even tempted a little bit to purchase something. And I struggle. Alcohol is a real challenge for me. So I've identified that warning sign. What can my action plan be? I know that I'm in the liquor aisle. I know it's upsetting me. What's my action plan? Because nobody else knows I'm upset, not at this point. You can just type your responses in the box. Yeah, I want to avoid it, but Terry, I'm already in that liquor aisle. I want to avoid it, but I went down it. I thought I was going in Tina's telling me, go to the vegetable aisle. Immediately go somewhere else. Divert. Carrie's telling me, call a friend. Maybe I want to call somebody on that list, right? Maybe I got a list of supporters and a list of friends that I can call. Why go down it? I didn't mean to. I thought I was going down the potato chip aisle, but it changed on me. Walk away. Marie, I can be very intentional about walking away. I can try to find a safer place within the store or even outside of the store. And it's okay. It's okay if we need to leave the store to get back to a place of me well. Remembering that goal is always to get back to a place of me well. And Catherine says, hey, I want to focus on how good I feel sober. So that's a real good example of changing that negative thought, that impulse, into focusing on how good it can feel. Oh, Terry, I got to take a deep breath. That's a good one. Christine, I got to call my buddy. Maybe I'm going to call my sponsor even. Okay, so we just, Stan, I hope that answered your question about how do you develop an action plan. You talk about it. You have these rooms or even these virtual rooms where you create opportunity for conversation. The crisis plan and the post-crisis plan are a little bit more in depth, so we are not going to go into those during these webinar. We are going to go to the next slide. So what stresses you out? What's your action plan? So we did a class one time that was a wrap for justice, people with mental health conditions who were involved with the legal system. here's some of the stressors that they identified: being interrupted, anxious about a court date, letting people down, or they felt let down by the legal system, missing loved ones while on lockdown, missing important life events together, embarrassment about an ankle monitor, hurtful remarks from the media and society, desire to drink, smoke, or eat excessively. And then we could compare and contrast that with a wrap for work. What if we were writing a wrap plan for how to be healthy at work? We could start with being interrupted, and what's some other things folks want to put in the chat box for what are our workplace stressors? What are our workplace stressors? I know one day I had a presentation to do and I was walking up steps and I spilt a drink all over my shirt right before the presentation. That was a major stressor. Oh, those mean coworkers, those mean managers, those colleagues. Hell, people are just always making too many demands. My workload, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I have too many tasks and not enough time. And yet I feel like there's too much time being spent. I got all those long hours. My inbox is a stressor. I laughed at that. I don't know if it's Jula or Julia. But I laughed at that inbox one because my email account just changed, and I love email, but this week it has really been a stressor. Again, what's the action plan? And if we were taking a wrap class, if this were not a webinar, like right now, you guys are getting the trailer to the whole movie. So you're just getting little clips of what wrap is like, little parts of it. But if we were taking a class, we would actually be writing these down. We would be writing down, listing what our stressors are. Technology problems can really be a stressor. Hey, I get stressed out just setting boundaries, Maria says, because I tend to take on too much. And sometimes it's to help others. And it's great most of the time, but it also can be enabling in other ways. So we take the time to write down the stressors, but then we write the action plan. So yes, we write an action plan in the class. And again, I would just encourage you to reach out to Christine. I really think that they would work something out if there was enough interest. We are going to the next slide. And this is just an example, this page of if we were in class, we could write it down in handwriting. We could, if people had a computer, they could write it on the computer. But hey, being interrupted is a stressor. So my action plan, my first plan is try to ignore it. My second plan is to identify why is the interruption happening. I mean, good grief, if the building's on fire, I want to be interrupted, but really not for other reasons. And then, hey, maybe another action plan is just to say to that person that's constantly interrupting, hey, did you realize you've interrupted me 3 times in the last minute or so? Sometimes people are aware of it and they'll back off, but sometimes they're not aware of it, and just holding up that mirror to them and letting them see their own actions can that in and of itself can be helpful. So part 4 is the recovery topics. We've already reviewed them: the changing negative thoughts to positive ones, the lifestyle, living space, enhancing your life, the motivation, peer support, self-esteem, suicide prevention, trauma recovery, and yes, those work-related issues. So how do I earn WRAP facilitator certification? We're going to end with this. There are 4, oh, I just realized I got a typo on my screen. Okay, I'm just going to go on anyway. There are the 4 ways to earn a facilitator certification. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to write your own WRAP. How can you write a WRAP plan? Take a WRAP class by a certified trained facilitator, and you will learn how to develop your own wellness plan. So the first thing you want to do is you want to write your own plan. The second thing that you want to do is you want to shadow a trained WRAP facilitator. And shadowing is kind of like student teaching. It's where you don't have the training to be a facilitator, but you are practicing under somebody else's certification. So a shadowing is a way that you can kind of stick your toes in the water and see how you like it, how well you like it, whether or not you want to invest in a 40-hour training. The third step is to begin attending quarterly RAP refreshers in your region. Now, we'll share with you, the state of Illinois is, for the Department of Human Services, is broken down in 5 different regions. And Cook County is in Region 1. Chicago, you guys get to be Region 1. And the name for the recovery support specialist who works for the Illinois Division of Mental Health is Denise Lawrence, and her email address is on this slide. So if you want to know more about how to prepare for the RAP facilitator training, or when will the next one be, they may not have an answer for that because of the pandemic. But you can contact Denise. But I will tell you, the very first thing you want to do is you want to write your own plan. The second thing is shadow the RAP facilitator. And the third thing, those RAP refreshers that are occurring right now, they're occurring virtually throughout the state. They are only available to people who are facilitating. So just because you join a RAP class, you can't get in a RAP refresher. They're only for the facilitators. Now, if you're shadowing a trained facilitator, you may be able to attend a refresher, but you will have to share who you are facilitating with to get permission and to get the login information. So those quarterly RAP refreshers, they're helpful to you once you begin shadowing, but it's not an option. It's not an open invitation to anyone. It's not like this webinar. And then the Division of Mental Health will put out an application it's a 40-hour facilitator training. You want to apply for it. It is a competitive application process. Not everyone who applies is able to participate. So how can you strengthen your application? This orientation that we've just done, I can provide for certificates for 1.5 hours for anyone that that emails me, that emails Christina, and I can email you a certificate. You want to get as much RAP recovery education as possible. So there may be other orientations online you can attend. You want to go through a class. You want to shadow. You may shadow 2 or 3 classes before you ever go through facilitator training. But the more recovery education you can get, the stronger your facilitator application is going to be. And if you're outside of Cook County, contact the Illinois Warm Line, and you can ask for the recovery support specialist in your area. I'm really appreciative of the comments that I'm seeing in the chat box. Here is my contact information. And with this, I'm going to turn it back over to Christine. Christine, thank you so much. What a wonderful, wonderful group to facilitate with. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. You gave us so many great ideas and strategies, and actually hope. You gave us hope for our wellness. It feels like we can overcome any challenge.
Yes.
As you mentioned early on. So thank you. And thank you everyone who has been with us tonight too. I just want to say before we close that these are especially difficult times. And I am posting the National Suicide Prevention number in the chat box. So please copy this into your phone, or write it on a notepad. Here we go. There we go. Put it somewhere where you have it. You never know when you might need to use it, or when someone you know might need some help. So keep that number close to you. Our next webinar is called Parenting the Other Child, Supporting Siblings of Children with Disabilities. And it is scheduled for Wednesday, February 24 at 7 p.m. We hope that you'll be able to join us. That's 2 weeks from today. Somebody asked in the chat box if they could get a copy of your presentation, AJ, and what the short answer is yes, but what we're doing is we are building a library of several presentations between now and May that we will be hosting, and then May is Mental Health Month. So we will be launching our library of webinars in the month of May. And so you can go to our website at namiccns.org. And you will be able to listen to and view any of the webinars that you've missed in the past that we've had. Again, this won't be up on our website until May sometime, but you can check back and see. Feel free to contact me at namiccns. Thank you again. Thank you, AJ. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and have a good night.
Thank you.